Hello everyone, I'm here to read the Danish Slaughterhouse Chapter 5, Keeping Things Quiet. And I'm also going to say that the next chapter probably isn't going to come out for a little while because I also have to deal with doing the next recording of my old Hetalia fanfiction and Kidnapped by Sexy Men. And then, of course, not next week, but the week after I'm going to be busy because Eurovision 2019 and all that. So, yeah, let's get started. The mansion was silent. Snuggled in their lavish quilts on their comfortable beds, the guests were sound asleep after a particularly exciting day of family fun, wrestling, and a video game tournament afterwards. And that's just how Matthias wanted it. Matthias needed the solitude and silence from his guest's slumber in order to put his whole concentration on the task at hand. He was up in the dead of night in his study, sitting at his desk with a clipboard on one side and his computer in front of him. Lazily leaning back into his desk chair, Matthias stared at the computer screen as it lit up, the bored and impatient expression on his face. Although he was excited that he was getting further along to his goal, he hated having to do so when it interfered with his own sleep patterns. Not that it mattered, though. Ever since he came up with this idea, he was unable to sleep for months from the glee he felt. He was actually quite surprised that he was able to think and act normally with the amount of sleep he has lost. But it was all going to be worth it. Matthias leaned forward in his chair when the video on the computer finally loaded and started to show what he was waiting for. In the video, Beryl was reluctantly stepping onto the mat to face Matthias in the first wrestling match. Matthias poised his pen on the clipboard where Beryl's name was written. Every half page was committed to a guest, and next to each guest's name, except for Peter's, was a number that ranked them best based on the speed they ran from fastest to slowest, with Emil taking the lead at number 1. Matthias smiled at that note. Emil really did look beautiful as he ran, like a pure white snow cat among the forest foliage. In the video, Beryl had cut Matthias off when he immediately went for the tackle. Matthias scribbled on his clipboard hurriedly. Attacks quickly while opponent is distracted. Usually goes for lower body, especially hips. Uses brunt force, just like I taught him, Matthias thought with a nostalgic grin. Unknowingly leaves legs unprotected. Is blind. Is motivated by husband. When the match ended with Beryl as victor, Matthias moved down to the next section of his clipboard, which happened to belong to Emil. Emil was walking onto the mat and displaying all the signs of a moody teenager. Crossed arms, irritated comments, eye rolls, general hatred of his own family. That is until Matthias lunged at him. He took notes of all that he was seeing. Has excellent reflexes and speed. Uses quick moves and momentum from the legs. Matthias looked up at the screen just when Emil took his fighting stance. He recognized the style. Fights in a taekwondo style. Probably got it from hanging with that Asian family for so many times, Matthias concluded. Matthias grinned as he watched himself easily pin down Emil. Has very light body weight. Up next to step, more like shoved onto the mat and fight Matthias in the video was Tino. Even though he was a decent fighter, he was still very timid, shown by the way he was just circling Matthias, waiting to see what Matthias' first move. He then nimbly cartwheeled out of the way as Matthias charged at him. He then grabbed Matthias' arm and swung him back. They then went back to waiting each other out before Matthias got Tino into the chokehold that made him submit. Very intimidated yet nimble, waits for opponent's move to counteract, puts as much distance between him and the opponent as possible. May submit if put in enough danger. The next to step onto the mat was Lucas. Matthias smiled gently to himself seeing his kitten, but then frowned at the victory that was to come. That delicate little pansy shouldn't have been able to beat me, Matthias thought. He frowned even more when he watched Matthias take his fighting stance and pull all sorts of moves to fight Matthias. Matthias took notes of Lucas's varying moves. Varies from kickboxing to martial arts. Light on his feet, dodges easily, uses body weight as well as speed, watches for opponents' moves too. Needs a serious attitude adjustment. I'll take care of that really soon, Matthias thought with a smirk. When Peter came onto the mat, Matthias didn't even bother to study his part. He simply scrawled on his clipboard, "Weak." "Hey, that's not fair," an indignant voice said behind Matthias. "The hell?" Matthias jumped in his chair and swiveled it around to find Peter behind him, staring at the clipboard and pounding at the word he wrote under Peter's name. Matthias closed the video and ejected the silver computer chip that held the video from its port. "What the fuck are you doing here?" Matthews hissed quietly to not wake the others. I had to pee, and when I left the bathroom, I saw you come in here, Peter replied. You were looking kind of weird, so I wanted to see what's going on. How the hell did I miss them? Matthews wondered angrily, shoving the computer chip into his pocket. The little bastard's been hanging around Barry too much. Hey, what's all this anyway? Peter reached for the clipboard, but Matthews picked it up and shoved it into the desk drawer. Geez, rude. No, what's rude is a little brat sneaking into a private study without his uncle's permission when he's supposed to be in bed. You could have made some noise at the very least. But if I did, then you would have made me go to bed. And I wanted to watch that video of us wrestling too, Peter then paused. Why did you have a recording of us wrestling anyway? And why were you taking notes? Matthew stood from his seat and grabbed Peter's shoulder. It's nothing, Kay. Now go to bed and speak to no one about this. You hear? He pushed Peter to the direction of the door. Don't tell anyone. What the fuck? I accidentally read ahead and, I'll just read. Peter shook his hand off. I'm not going anywhere, you big buffoon. Why do I have to go? And what's the big deal? It was just a video. You're right. It's no big deal. Just keep quiet about it, okay? Why should I if it's no big deal, especially since you won't let me in on it? Matthews breathed through his nostrils to calm himself. He was so close to yelling and waking up everyone else. First, Peter, stop yelling. Second, you, as the brat, are supposed to respect your elders and obey them without question. Now shut up and get out. Peter stared straight into Matthew's eyes, clenching his fist and puffing out his chest defiantly. He then sneered, You know what? I don't care that you're my uncle or how big of a stupid secret this is. I'm going to tell everyone here, and you can't do a damn thing. He stuck out his tongue and turned to leave. Matthew snatched the back of Peter's sleep shirt and yanked it back. With a yell, Peter fell backwards and landed hard on the study's floor. Hey, what? Matthew slapped Peter's face and clamped his hand over Peter's mouth. He then lifted the boy up by the collar, keeping his hand over Peter's mouth, and leaned close to his face. You know what your problem is, you stupid brat, he hissed. You're cute, so no one had the damn balls to tell you that you talk too much for your own good, and you should shut your damn mouth. He stared deep into Peter's bulging eyes, and then he let his... Oh my god. This genuinely makes me feel uncomfortable. He let his eyes roam over Peter's body, noticing the askew state of his pajamas that exposed his delicate pale skin that was rapidly covering in goosebumps. Peter's face was flushed red, especially the red hand mark that slapped left on his cheek. Maybe no one ever taught you properly, did they? Matthews laid Peter down on his back again and knelt on top of him. Oh my god, no, this isn't what I think it is. This isn't what I think it is. Oh my god, where did I leave off? Fuck, I don't even know where I left off. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm just really disturbed by this. He brought his mouth to Peter's ear. I guess I can teach ya. He licked the shell of Peter's ear and fingered the drawstring of his pajama pants. I'm about to cry. Peter wriggled and kicked and pleaded behind Matthew's hand, but he was too heavy. He couldn't get him off and escape. He then lied still as tears began to form in his eyes. This last sentence is just... Oh my god. He squeezed his eyes shut. Mama, Papa, please help me. That's the end. I kind of think it's a good thing that I'm not going to come back to this story until after Eurovision. I didn't know this chapter was going to be like this. I honestly didn't. And I wanted to keep in a good mood, because Eurovision's coming up and all. No, instead, I had to deal with this, and you know what? I'm glancing over chapter 6. It looks long anyway, so we're done here. I'll see you guys next time.